The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the rolling hills of the Norwegian countryside as Sophia, Lars, Ingrid, and Erik arrived at the infamous Haken mansion. The sight of the grand, yet dilapidated structure sent a shiver down Sophia's spine. Its once majestic facade was now cloaked in a thick layer of ivy, with windows like darkened eyes watching their every move. The air was thick with an eerie silence that swallowed their laughter, and for a moment, they stood frozen, absorbing the weight of the stories that lingered in the air. "Are you sure we should be doing this?" Lars asked, glancing at the towering mansion with a mix of curiosity and trepidation. His hands were shoved deep into the pockets of his jacket, as if seeking comfort from the chill. "Oh, come on, Lars. Where's your sense of adventure?" Ingrid teased, her eyes sparkling with excitement. She twirled a strand of her hair, glancing back at the mansion as if it were an old friend. "It's just an old house. What's the worst that could happen?" Famous last words, he muttered under his breath, but as he looked at Sophia and Erik, he saw their determination. They stepped forward, their steps echoing on the gravel path that led to the heavy oak door. Sophia reached for the doorknob, its cold metal sending a jolt through her. She hesitated, exchanging a nervous glance with Erik. "Together," she suggested, her voice barely above a whisper. "Together," Erik affirmed, placing his hand over hers. With a gentle push, the door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit foyer filled with dust and echoes of the past. A gust of wind seemed to sweep through the hall, and the door slammed shut behind them, sealing them inside. The interior of the mansion was a world of shadows and secrets. Old portraits lined the walls, their subjects staring down with expressions that seemed both melancholic and accusatory. "Look at this place," Ingrid said, her voice filled with awe. "It's like stepping back in time." Sophia wandered further into the room, drawn to an ornate table littered with papers and trinkets. Her fingers brushed against a leather-bound diary, its spine cracked with age. "Guys, check this out," she called, flipping it open to reveal faded ink and delicate handwriting. "What does it say?" Erik asked, leaning over her shoulder as the others gathered around, curiosity piqued. "It's written by the last resident of the mansion," Sophia replied, her voice trembling slightly. "It talks about a family curse, about loss and betrayal." "Sounds like a horror movie plot," Lars commented sarcastically, though a hint of unease crept into his tone. "Maybe, but what if it's real?" Ingrid said, her eyes wide with excitement. "We could uncover something incredible." As Sophia continued to read, the air in the room thickened, and the shadows seemed to deepen. A sudden noise echoed through the halls, a soft thud that made them all jump. "Did you hear that?" Lars's voice rose an octave, his earlier bravado fading. "Probably just the house settling," Erik said, though his eyes darted to the darkened corners of the room. "Right? Let's keep exploring," Ingrid urged, a thrill of adrenaline coursing through her veins. "This is just getting interesting." As night fell, the mansion transformed. The once inviting shadows morphed into ominous shapes, and strange sounds reverberated through the hallways, whispers that seemed to dance just beyond their reach. Sophia clutched the diary tighter, the weight of the words heavy in her mind. "Guys, maybe we should stick together," she suggested, her voice barely audible above the unsettling creaks and groans of the house. "Agreed," Lars said, his earlier skepticism now replaced by a palpable tension. "This place is giving me the creeps." "Stop being so dramatic," Ingrid laughed, though it lacked its usual enthusiasm. "It's just an old house. We're fine." But as they ventured deeper into the heart of Haken Mansion, an unshakable feeling of dread began to settle over them. Shadows flickered just beyond their line of sight, and every whispered sound sent chills racing down their spines. The secrets of the mansion beckoned them, and with every step, they found themselves drawn further into its dark embrace. The air in Haken Mansion grew heavier as Ingrid's curiosity bubbled over. She stood at the top of the staircase leading down into the basement, her eyes sparkling with a mix of excitement and trepidation. "Come on, guys. We have to check down there. What if we find something incredible, she urged, her voice echoing slightly in the vast silence. Lars crossed his arms, glancing uneasily at the darkened corridor below. I don't know, Ingrid. It feels wrong. What if something's down there? You heard the noises earlier. His voice trembled slightly, betraying his apprehension. Oh, stop being such a coward. Sophia chimed in, a smile playing at the corners of her lips. She loved a good thrill, and the mansion's eerie atmosphere only amplified her adventurous spirit. What's an adventure without a little danger? Eric, caught in a tug-of-war between his friends' contrasting views, scratched the back of his neck thoughtfully. I mean, we did come here to explore. Maybe just a quick look. He offered a tentative smile, trying to ease the tension. Ingrid's eyes lit up with enthusiasm. Exactly. Just a quick peek. We'll be fine. She began her descent, the wooden steps creaking under her weight, each sound reverberating ominously through the mansion. Reluctantly, the others followed, their footsteps echoing in unison. The basement door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit space that smelled of damp earth and decay. Shadows danced along the walls, and a chill ran down Lars's spine as he peered into the darkness. See? Nothing to be afraid of, Ingrid said, her voice barely above a whisper, the thrill of discovery coursing through her veins. As they ventured deeper, the air thickened with an unsettling energy. They stumbled upon remnants of what appeared to be an old ritual, a circle of scorched earth adorned with faded symbols, the once vibrant colors now muted by time. What is this? Eric asked, crouching down to inspect the strange markings. Do you think it's some kind of witchcraft? Or a cult? Lars added, his voice laced with skepticism. We should get out of here. Don't be ridiculous. Ingrid scoffed, rolling her eyes as she traced the symbols with her fingers. This is fascinating. We might be uncovering something no one has seen in decades. Just as she spoke, a loud crash echoed through the mansion, causing them all to jump. The lights flickered ominously, casting erratic shadows that twisted and morphed across the basement walls. What was that? Lars exclaimed, his heart racing. The unease that had been building now surged into panic. Probably just the wind, Sophia said, though her voice lacked its usual confidence. Right? She looked at the others, searching for reassurance. Or something else, Eric muttered, glancing nervously towards the staircase. Maybe we should go back upstairs. This place is giving me the creeps. Don't be such a baby. Ingrid shot back, though her voice quivered slightly. We can't leave now. We're so close to figuring this out. Before they could argue further, the lights flickered again, plunging them into darkness for a brief moment. When they returned, the shadows seemed to loom larger, more oppressive. A cold draft swept through the basement, sending shivers down their spines. Okay, maybe we should leave, Lars said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. This isn't right. We shouldn't be here. No. Ingrid insisted, her tone firm. We can't let fear control us. We need to see this through. As if responding to her defiance, another loud crash echoed from above, shaking the very foundations of Hacken Mansion. The walls groaned, and the flickering lights began to dim, creating an atmosphere thick with dread. The friends exchanged fearful glances, the thrill of exploration now overshadowed by the mounting sense of danger. Let's just check one more room, Eric suggested, his voice steady despite the fear that gripped him. Just to see if we can find the source of that noise. Fine, Lars relented, though his eyes betrayed his reluctance. But if we hear anything else, we're out of here. With trepidation, they moved further into the basement, unaware that the very walls of Hacken Mansion were listening, waiting, and perhaps even watching. Sophia and Eric exchanged nervous glances as they stepped cautiously into the decrepit bedroom, the air thick with dust and the scent of decay. The moonlight streamed through a cracked window, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls. The room was furnished with a dilapidated bed draped in tattered sheets and an old wardrobe that stood ominously in the corner. "Do you really think we should be here?" Sophia whispered, her voice barely above a breath. "We have to find out what that noise was," Eric replied, his tone firm but laced with uncertainty. He stepped further into the room, drawn by an inexplicable urge to investigate. The floor creaked beneath his feet, amplifying the unsettling atmosphere. As they explored the space, Sophia noticed something peculiar about the wall beside the bed. It had a slight indentation, almost as if it were hiding a secret. "Eric, come look at this," she called, her heart racing with a mixture of excitement and dread. He approached, peering at the wall where Sophia pointed. "What is it?" I think there's something behind here." With a determined shove, Sophia pressed against the wall, and to her surprise, a hidden compartment creaked open, revealing a collection of old photographs. The images were yellowed with age, depicting somber faces, past inhabitants of the mansion, their eyes seemingly alive with sorrow and despair. "Wow," Eric breathed, leaning closer. "Look at this one." He picked up a photo of a woman in a long, flowing dress, her expression haunting. "She looks like she's trapped." "Maybe she is," Sophia murmured, her voice heavy with the weight of the mansion's history. "These people, what happened to them?" Meanwhile, in another part of the mansion, Lars and Ingrid stood frozen in the dimly lit hallway, the whispers growing louder. "Did you hear that?" Lars asked, his eyes wide with fear. "Yes." Ingrid replied, clutching his arm tightly. "It's coming from over there." She pointed toward an archway at the end of the hall, where shadows seemed to shift and swirl. "Maybe we should go back to Sophia and Eric," Lars suggested, his voice quivering. "I don't like this." "Are you kidding?" "We can't just leave now," Ingrid insisted, her curiosity overpowering her fear. "We have to find out what's happening." With hesitant steps, they moved toward the archway, the whispers wrapping around them like a chilling embrace. "Hello? Is anyone there?" Ingrid called out, her voice echoing against the cold walls. The whispers intensified, a cacophony of voices overlapping in a disjointed melody of despair. "We're not alone," Lars whispered, his heart pounding in his chest. He grabbed Ingrid's hand tightly, and they pressed forward, the sensation of being watched growing stronger. Back in the bedroom, Sophia shuddered as she turned another photograph, revealing a family portrait. "Eric, look at this. They all look so sad." "Maybe they were victims of whatever curse this place holds," Eric suggested, his brow furrowing as he examined the faces closely. "It's like they knew something we don't." Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the mansion, causing the walls to shudder. The photographs slipped from Sophia's fingers, scattering across the floor. "What was that?" she gasped, her heart racing. "Let's go find Lars and Ingrid," Eric urged, his voice tense. They hurried out of the room, the chilling atmosphere of the mansion wrapping around them as they made their way down the dimly lit hallway. As they reached the archway, they found Lars and Ingrid standing there, their expressions a mix of fear and fascination. "Did you hear that crash?" Lars asked, his voice trembling. "We thought we were alone. We found something, photos from the mansion's past," Sophia said, breathless. "But we need to stick together." Ingrid nodded, her eyes wide with apprehension. "We heard whispers, it felt like someone was trying to communicate with us." "Whatever we do, we can't split up again," Eric said firmly, glancing back at the shadows that seemed to loom closer. "Let's stick together and find out what's really going on here." As they formed a tight circle, a palpable tension filled the air, each friend acutely aware of the malevolent presence lurking just beyond their sight, waiting to reveal the mansion's dark secrets. The tension in Hacken Mansion thickened like the fog rolling in from the Norwegian fjords. The air felt heavy, laden with secrets that had long been buried beneath the dust of time. As the friends gathered in the dimly lit hallway, their hearts raced in unison, the echo of their earlier laughter now a distant memory. Okay, we need to leave. Now, Lars urged, his voice a strained whisper. He pressed his palm against the cold wood of the front door, hoping it would yield to his touch. But as he tugged at the handle, it wouldn't budge. It's locked. It's really locked. Ingrid stepped closer to him, her brow furrowed in confusion. What do you mean? It was just open when we came in. Her voice trembled slightly, betraying her own fear. Maybe it's just stuck. Sophia glanced nervously at Eric, who stood at a distance, studying the walls adorned with faded wallpaper and peeling paint. I don't like this. We should find another way out, she said, her voice laced with urgency. Let's check the back door, Eric suggested, turning on his heel and leading the way down the corridor. The group followed, their footsteps muffled by the thick carpet that seemed to absorb the very sound of their fear. As they reached the kitchen, the atmosphere shifted. The air grew colder, and the faint smell of something long forgotten wafted through the room. Ingrid hesitated as she stepped into the kitchen, her eyes catching sight of a cracked window. Look! If we can just break this. Before she could finish her thought, a loud bang echoed through the mansion, reverberating off the walls and causing everyone to jump. They exchanged terrified glances, the reality of their entrapment settling in like a lead weight in their stomachs. Let's just go back to the hall, Eric suggested, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. We can figure this out together. Reluctantly, they retraced their steps, the shadows around them seeming to stretch and twist, as if the very walls were alive and watching. As they entered the main hall once more, a chill swept through the space, sending a shiver down Sophia's spine. The portraits hanging on the walls felt more imposing than ever, their painted eyes following their every movement. Do you feel that? Lars asked, his voice barely above a whisper. It's like they're all staring at us. Maybe they are, Eric replied, his gaze fixed on a particularly somber portrait of a woman dressed in a flowing gown, her expression melancholic. What if they're trapped here too? Sophia stepped closer to the wall, her fingers brushing against the wooden frame of the portraits. This place is filled with stories, she murmured, captivated yet terrified. What if we're part of one of them? Enough with the spooky talk, Sophia, Ingrid interjected, crossing her arms defensively. We need to focus on getting out. Wait, Eric said suddenly, a thought dawning on him. What if the spirit is somehow tied to this place? Maybe confronting it is the only way to escape. The suggestion hung in the air like a specter itself, causing Sophia's heart to race. You mean, talk to it? What if it's angry? What if it wants to hurt us? It's worth a shot, Eric insisted, a determined glint in his eyes. If there's a chance we can reason with whatever is haunting this place, we should take it. Lars sighed heavily, visibly torn. I don't know, man. It sounds dangerous. What if it only makes things worse? Ingrid leaned in closer, her curiosity piqued despite her fear. What do we have to lose? We're already trapped here. Maybe understanding its story can help us find a way out. As they stood in the hall, the weight of their decision pressed down on them like the very air around them. The flickering candlelight cast dancing shadows on the walls, and the portraits seemed to lean in closer, as if eager to hear their plans. Okay, Sophia said, her voice steadying as she took a deep breath. Let's do it. Let's confront the spirit. They gathered together, forming a small huddle, each of them feeling the pulse of fear mixed with a flicker of hope. The mansion tightened around them, and the portraits watched, waiting to see what would unfold. In the dimly lit main hall of Hacken Mansion, the atmosphere was thick with tension as the four friends gathered in a tight circle. Shadows danced along the walls, elongated by the flickering light of their lanterns. The air was colder now, a biting chill that seeped into their bones, and Sophia could see her breath misting in front of her. Are you sure about this? Lars asked, his voice shaky as he glanced toward the grand staircase that loomed above them like a silent sentinel. What if we're just asking for trouble? Sophia clutched the old diary tightly to her chest, its brittle pages crinkling under her grip. "We need to understand what happened here," she replied, her voice steady despite the knot of fear in her stomach. "The diary talks about betrayal and loss. Maybe the spirit just wants to be heard." Ingrid nodded, her eyes wide with a mix of excitement and apprehension. "I agree with Sophia. If we can connect with the spirit, maybe we can help it find peace." Eric, who had been inspecting the ornate carvings on the fireplace, turned to face the group. "Let's do it then. We have nothing to lose, right? Besides, we're in this together." Taking a deep breath, Sophia opened the diary, the pages crackling like dry leaves underfoot. "All right, let's start with this passage," she said, reading aloud in a clear voice. "I am bound by the chains of my past, forever watching those I once loved, betrayed and forgotten. If only the truth were known." As she spoke, the temperature in the room plummeted further, and the lanterns flickered violently. The shadows seemed to shift, coiling around them like a living entity. Suddenly, a soft moan echoed through the hall, sending chills crawling up their spines. "Did you hear that?" Ingrid whispered, her eyes darting around as if expecting to see something lurking in the dark. "Yes," Eric replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "It came from over there." He pointed toward the far end of the hall, where the walls seemed to pulse with a strange energy. Sophia continued with the diary, her heart racing. "In the depths of my despair, I call for those who will listen, for I am but a shadow of my former self." The air grew dense, and as if summoned by her words, a ghostly figure began to materialize in front of them. It was faint at first, a shimmering outline that gradually took shape, a woman dressed in white, her expression a mix of sorrow and longing. Her eyes, hollow yet filled with an ancient pain, locked onto Sophia. "Oh my God," Lars gasped, taking a step back. "What is happening?" "Stay calm," Eric urged, though his own voice quivered. "We're here to help you." The spirit raised a hand, tears glistening on her ethereal cheeks. You cannot understand," she whispered, her voice a blend of sorrow and rage. "They betrayed me. My own blood turned against me." Sophia felt a pang of empathy. "What happened to you?" she asked gently, hoping to draw the spirit out of her torment. "Betrayal and loss," the spirit echoed, her voice rising with emotion. "They took everything from me. My love, my life, and I was left to haunt these halls, endlessly searching for justice." Just as the spirit's story resonated within Sophia, the mansion trembled violently. The walls groaned under a sudden pressure, and the floorboards creaked ominously beneath their feet. Ingrid stumbled backward, clutching Lars's arm for support. "What's happening?" she cried, her voice rising in panic. "It's like the house is alive. It's reacting to her emotions," Eric shouted over the cacophony, trying to keep his composure. "We need to calm her down." Sophia held the diary closer, her mind racing to find the right words. "Remember, even in darkness, there is light. Forgive those who have wronged you, and find peace in letting go." As she recited the line, the spirit hesitated, her expression shifting from rage to a bittersweet sorrow. The tremors of the mansion began to subside, but it was clear that they were still caught in a storm of emotions. Fear, regret, and a longing for resolution hung heavy in the air. "Please," Sophia implored, her voice steady as she looked into the spirit's mournful eyes. "You don't have to be trapped here anymore. We can help you find peace." The spirit's gaze softened, a flicker of hope igniting in her spectral form. "Do you truly wish to understand my pain?" she asked, her voice trembling with the weight of her history. The mansion around them remained still, as if holding its breath, waiting for the answer that would change everything. As the tremors subsided, the friends stood in stunned silence, the heavy air thick with the weight of revelation. The spectral figure that had materialized before them was no longer the terrifying apparition they had braced themselves against. Instead, it shimmered with a soft, almost ethereal glow. Lars, feeling a mix of dread and fascination, broke the silence. What just happened? Did we actually connect with it? Ingrid clasped her hands nervously, glancing at the spirit that hovered just beyond their reach. It felt like it was trying to tell us something. But what? Sophia, feeling an inexplicable pull toward the figure, took a deep breath. I think I might know. Her voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried the weight of an unspoken truth. My grandmother was born here. She never talked much about her past, but she did mention Hacken Mansion once or twice. Eric's eyes widened as he processed her words. Wait, are you saying you might be a descendant? That could mean you're the one the legend speaks of. His excitement was tempered by concern. But what if it's dangerous? Sophia stepped closer to the spirit, who seemed to be waiting, its form becoming more defined with each passing moment. I need to know. If this is the key to freeing it, I have to try. She turned to her friends, searching their faces for support. I can't do this alone. Lars, always the cautious one, hesitated. But what if it goes wrong? What if it gets angry? We don't know what it wants. It wants to be free, Sophia insisted, her voice steady despite the fear bubbling beneath the surface. It's trapped here, just like we are. She took another step forward, heart racing, and the spirit seemed to reach out, its translucent hand stretching toward her. Please be careful, Ingrid whispered, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. We're right here with you. As Sophia extended her hand, the air grew colder, swirling around them like a winter storm. The spirit's form solidified, revealing features that were strikingly familiar, eyes that mirrored Sophia's own and a sorrowful expression that spoke of centuries of pain. You come from me, the spirit whispered, the voice echoing through the hall like a haunting melody. You can release us all. What do I need to do? Sophia asked, her heart pounding in her chest. She felt an overwhelming urge to embrace the spirit, to share in its grief, its history. There was a connection that transcended time, a bond that pulled her closer. Speak the truth, the spirit urged, its voice a soft breeze, filled with longing. Acknowledge the pain, the betrayal, the love that was lost. Only then can I be free. Sophia nodded, her throat tight with emotion. I understand. I'll do it. She closed her eyes, allowing memories of her grandmother's stories to wash over her. I am here to honor you, to acknowledge everything that happened in this mansion. I know about the pain, the secrets that were buried deep. Her voice trembled, but she pressed on. You lost everything, your family, your home, your peace. As she spoke, the temperature in the room began to shift. The walls, once oppressive, felt lighter. The portraits that had seemed to watch them transformed into expressions of empathy, their painted eyes glistening with tears. Remember us, the spirit urged, its hand reaching closer as if trying to grasp Sophia's. We were not monsters. We were victims of our own hearts. Tears streamed down Sophia's cheeks as she continued, I acknowledge your suffering. I acknowledge the love that was twisted by fear and betrayal. You are not alone anymore. Suddenly, the once vibrant colors of the room began to fade, replaced by a soft light that enveloped the spirit. The friends watched in awe as the figure transformed, its sorrow dissipating like morning mist. The air felt lighter, free of the oppressive weight they had been carrying. With one final, shimmering glance, the spirit smiled at Sophia, and in an instant, it faded into a million tiny lights, illuminating the mansion in a warm glow. The oppressive atmosphere that had lingered for so long lifted, leaving behind a profound sense of peace. Sophia turned to her friends, who stood speechless, a mixture of relief and disbelief washing over them. Did we really just do that? Eric asked, his voice barely above a whisper. We did, Lars replied, a smile breaking through his earlier concern. We freed it. Ingrid stepped forward, wrapping her arms around Sophia. You were incredible. I can't believe you faced that spirit head-on. Sophia smiled through her tears, feeling the weight of history lift from her shoulders. We all faced it together. The bond between them felt stronger, forged in a fire of shared experience, and for the first time since entering Hacken Mansion, they felt truly free.